Okay, we are going to finally finish up and solve a quadratic equation by factoring. Okay, we've been taking different steps. We've been working with quadratics for quite a while. We have the different representations that we can recognize. We have been doing that. That's why we have all the I cans. And the very last one, I will factor. Okay, so we are going to be doing factoring. So it is important that you watch this whole video because you're going to have some things to do within it. So here we go. Let's see what we got. Here we go. So we are going to factor. Now, first of all, we do have our steps. Very first thing we do, especially when factoring, is one side has to be equal to 0. And I just want to emphasize that when we are manipulating any type of quadratic, we are always going to manipulate it to where we work with a positive quadratic term. So if we have to manipulate any equation to make it equal to 0, we are going to work with a positive quadratic term. So here we go. This one right here, first thing we do is we get it equal to 0. So to do that, I have to subtract 19n from both sides. And remember, what I do to one side, I do to the other. And again, we always combine like terms if we have like terms. We have 2n squared, that is our quadratic term. We have minus 19n, which is our linear term, and then a positive 24. We equals, because we do have our equal sign, 0. We have completed our first step. That's our equal. Next thing we're going to do is identify our sum and product. We've done that. Okay, so here we go. We have the sum, we have the product. The sum is our coefficient of our linear term, which is a negative 19. Negative 19 is our sum. Our product is our quadratic coefficient, which is 2, times our constant, our number all by itself. 2 times 24, which is 48. So there's our product. So we have a sum and a product. Now, first and foremost, after we finish our sum and product, what we have to do, and we've done this, we have to figure out what multiplies to be a positive 48 and adds to be a negative 19. Well, if we're multiplying to be positive, both the numbers have to be negative. A negative times a negative is a positive. So again, I tend to always start out with what I had. I have 2 times 24, so they're both negative, because when we add together, they need to be negative, and when we multiply, we need to be positive. When I add those together, I get 26. 26 is not our sum, is not our negative 19. So we continue, and sometimes it's a trial and error kind of deal. 24 is 22, so 4 goes into 48, 22 times? So again, I'm gonna have a negative 4, and a negative, 12, isn't it? Negative 4, negative 12. But when I add those together, okay, I multiply, those multiply to be a positive 48, but they add to be a negative 16, which again is not what I'm wanting, okay? So let me find some other 48. 16 and 3. So I got a negative 16 and a negative 3. Those multiply to be a positive 48. Those add to be a negative 19. So this is what I'm using. Now, we've done all of this. From this point, we take our product and we replace our linear term. That's what we do. So we're going to rewrite this, replacing my linear term. So I have 2n squared. If I'm replacing the linear term, and it doesn't matter which one I use first, okay? I've got my negative 16, negative 3. So I have a negative 16n minus 3n, because a negative 16n minus 3n is a negative 19n. Then plus 24 equals 0. We have done everything up to this point. Everything we've done. Now is the new information. What we're going to do each time, every time, all the time, okay? We're going to group the first two terms, because we now have 4 terms. We're grouping the first two, and we are grouping the second two, okay? When I group the first two, okay, I'm going to look. I'm looking for something I can factor out. What do they have in common? I'm looking for 2 things. I'm looking for, do they have a common variable, and do they have a common factor, okay? If they have both a common variable and a factor, I'm taking both those out. If they have only a common variable, I'm only going to take that out, okay? If they only have a common number, I'm going to take that out. When I say take it out, I'm factoring it out, I'm dividing it out, I'm putting it out front. I'm using a distributive property backwards, so to speak. So 2n squared minus 16n. 2 goes into 16. So 2 goes into both of those terms. So 2 is a common factor. So using green, I'm going to put my 2 out here. This has n squared, this has n. They still have an n in common. So I can take a 2 and an n out. I'm dividing that out. So when I divide it out, I'm going to put my little parentheses. And I'm not sure. For explanatory purposes only, I'm showing you what we're doing, okay? So I'm going to go over to the far right, and I'm going to do it in red. So technically, I'm taking 2n, and I'm dividing it into 2n squared. I'm also taking a negative 16n and dividing by 2n. That is what is going to go in the parentheses. So 2n squared divided by 2n is simply n. And a negative 16n divided by 2n is a negative 8. And you may say, okay, how do we know this? Well, 2 divided by 2 is 1. N squared is the same as n times n over n. So we cancel here, leaving us with 1n. Also by laws of exponents, you take the numerator exponent 2 minus the denominator exponent 1. 2 minus 1 is 1, so we just get an n. Same here, negative 16 divided by 2 is a negative 8. N over n is 1. So that's how we get the 2n in our parentheses, n minus 8. Now, this next part is a very tricky part. We have to pay attention. I'm going to circle it in, let's see what, I want to circle it in green. I don't care what that sign is. It could be a plus, it could be a minus, I don't care, but it comes down, this number comes down right there, or this sign. So this sign, whatever it is, comes down here. I've got 3n and I've got 24, okay? 3 goes into 24, so I have, hold on, that little thing looks bad. This is an arrow, there we go. Okay, so I have a 3 that comes out of both those. Now technically, since I moved this negative sign out, I have a negative 3. So I have a negative 3n divided by a negative 3, because we keep the signs with the numbers. And then I have a positive 24 divided by a negative 3. That's essentially what I'm doing. So I have negative 3. I put my parentheses down. So negative over negative is going to make for a positive, and I have a positive n. Positive over negative makes for a negative, and I have a negative 8. So this part right here is new, and this is what our goal is. We're trying to get it right here. And I color-coded things. So if you'll look, the parentheses, they're both written in blue, and they are both matching. They are n minus 8. So what I do after I group and I factor, I'm looking for what they have in common. They have an n minus 8 in common. So watch what I do. I'm going to take this n minus 8, n minus 8, and I'm going to push together what's left. Okay? You're not going to do this on your paper. I'm going to do this on the board just to kind of show you. So if I pull out the n minus 8, so that means I'm gonna erase it. I pulled it out, it's right there, n minus 8. And I'm gonna push together what's left. 2n minus 3. Okay, there we have it. And we have equal 0. Now, we have completely factored this quadratic, but we're not done because we are supposed to solve by factoring. We have factored, now we have to solve. So I'm gonna have to erase this part of the board. Hopefully you have that all in your notes as we worked along, okay? Now what I'm gonna do is I have two factors. One factor, two factors. I set each factor equal to 0. That's why the right-hand side has to be 0. And we're going to solve. My first factor is n minus 8. So n minus 8 equals 0. And then my second factor is 2n minus 3 equals 0. So we have two equations, and we're going to solve them. Okay? I'm going to add 8. I'm going to isolate my variable. Add 8 to both sides, my handy dandy line, n equals 8. Here, I've got to add 3 to both sides. Then I have 2n equals 3. I'm going to divide by 2, so n is going to equal 3/2. So we have now solved this quadratic equation by factoring, but we have to write our answer in proper form, our solution set. Because remember, our solutions are our zeros to the equation. That means that if we were to graph this function, that it is going to cross the x-axis at least 3/2 and greatest 8. So on our grid, okay, we had a grid, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's going to cross here, and then at 3/2, that means 1.5, so it's going to cross there, and then it'll cross in between in some way, shape, or form. But we have solved it by factoring. Okay? So now what you're going to do is you are going to do number 4. So in your journals, you are to work number 4 just as if it were an assignment. So be sure that you work number 4, and I'm gonna scroll up here. So this is what we're gonna work. You're gonna work 15m squared plus 29m equals 8. You're going to factor and solve that just like we did. Okay, so here we're going to do our second example. We're going to do number 2. So first and foremost, one side equal to 0. To get that, we're going to add 24 to both sides. So there we have it. We have 35x squared plus 58x plus 24 equals 0. Just want to reemphasize these are additive inverses. None of these are like terms. So now that we have one side equal to 0, I'm going to work over here. We're going to use our sum and product chart. Remember, our sum is the coefficient of our linear term. Our product is our quadratic times our constant. So sum is 58. Our linear term, this right here is 58. Our product is 35 times 24. You always know I just tend to start out with that, 35 times 24, which is a positive 840. So we are looking for what multiplies to be a positive 840, so they both either have to be positive or negative, but since I'm adding to be a positive, they both have to be positive. 35 plus 24 is 59. Okay, so that's the sum. That doesn't work for us. So, let's see. I've got 84 and 10. 84 and 10 add to be 94. Again, that's not what I'm going to do. So let's pull up a red one. Let's see. This 35 and 24 was really close, and I believe 30 and 28. Those will multiply to be 840. Those also add to be 58. So this is what I'm going to use. My sum and product chart is completed. There we go. I'm going to use this 30 and this 28, and I'm going to replace my linear term. So I'm going to rewrite it. I have 35x squared. My linear term is being replaced with what I found in my sum and product chart, plus 30x plus 28x. Those are the things I replaced, plus 24 equals 0. So now I group. I group the first two, I group the second two. Again, it doesn't matter what order. Now I'm looking for a common factor. I'm looking for a common number and a common variable. If I only have a common number, that's okay. If I only have a common variable, that's okay. But I am looking for both. I'm hoping to find both. So I have 35x squared and 30x. Okay. I know when x comes out of both of them, 35 and 30, a 5 goes into both of those. So 35x squared, I'm taking 35x squared, and I'm dividing by 5x. One x cancels with this one. 5 goes into 35 7 times, so I'm left with 7x. And is that what I want to do? Yeah, I want to leave it in green. 7x, okay? And then my 30, I have 30x divided by 5x. The x is canceled. 30 divided by 5 is 6. That's a positive, so I have a positive 6. And actually, let's write this in a different color. Let's go 7x plus 6. There we go. Okay. And so I factored my first one out. So now I'm going to go to my second one, my second grouping. Okay. I've got my 28x and my 24. But remember, this sign, we don't care what it is, but that one's coming down. That sign's coming down. So 28 and 24. 28 and 24. Well, I need it to look like a 7. So if I take a 4 out, 4 comes out. Okay, that looks good. 4. So 28x, and again, 28x divided by just a 4 because they don't have a variable in common. 28x divided by 4 is 7x. Okay, this becomes 7. My x is still there. And then I have a positive 24 divided by 4. 4 goes into 24, and it's positive, a positive 6 times. So I need to erase this, give myself room. I have grouped and I factored. Okay, from my factoring, I step back and I color-coded mine. I need those to look alike. If they're not alike, I either can't factor by solving or I've done something incorrectly. So one thing I did forget to write down is I've got equal 0. Don't forget your equal 0, I did, okay? But now that I have this factored, what is alike? My 7x plus 6 is alike. It's going to be equal to 0. Now, if I pull that out, and you're not going to erase it on your paper, but I'm just showing you for explanatory purpose. I pulled my 7x plus 6 out. I pushed together what's left. Whoops. Push together what's left. When I do that, I get 5x plus 4. And that equals 0. Okay, so now that I have it in factored form, I set each factor equal to 0. I have 2 factors, should have 2 answers. So here I go. My first factor, 7x plus 6 equals 0. Second factor, 5x plus 4 equals 0. So here I go. I'm going to solve. I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. 7x equals a positive 6. Divide by 7, x equals 6/7. That's not pretty, it's not nice or anything, but it is a fraction. It's almost a positive 1. Not quite a positive 1, but almost. And actually, it should be a negative. Okay, almost a negative 1. That is a negative 6. 0 minus 6 is a negative 6 divided by 7. So x equals a negative 6/7. I dropped my negative sign. I didn't catch it till just now. Okay, so we do have to be careful. It is common. It is very easy to do, is to drop the negative sign. Here I'm going to subtract 4. Let's not drop the negative sign this time. I got 5x equals a negative 4. Divide both sides by 5. So x equals a negative 4/5. So we have two answers, negative 6/7 and negative 4/5. So negative 6/7, negative 4/5. Okay? So now what you're going to do for your next problem is you are going to do number 3. So we did a little backwards. You did 4 first, and then you did number 3. So let's see what we get. Be sure that you get it all worked out in your journals. Okay? Thank you for your time.